Fun night in St. Louis. The Cardinals win their fourth consecutive game, going toe-to-toe against Paul Skenes, who really has not had St. Louis's number to start his young, impressive career. This is the Cards Hub Postgame Show, brought to you by HotShots. St. Louis is home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com, and all content here on Sports Hub STL is provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Sara Dayley, Stefan Cray here for you. It was really a pleasing game. The Cardinals pitched the lights out of the baseball. Offensively, a whole lot left to be desired, but they delivered when they needed to in the game. Bottom of the sixth inning against Paul Skenes, Alec Burleson comes up on the 101st pitch. He doubles down the left field line, bringing home two. And from that point on, the Cardinals just continued to cruise against the Pirates.
We're getting a lot of comments right out of the gate. Of course, with all these Cardinal fans, they're excited. We're now one game below 500 and to be 19-19 tomorrow if we can take another victory from the Buccos. But like you said, Burleson's clutch double delivered a pivotal two-run in the bottom of the sixth inning, and it turned that 1-0 deficit into the lead for the Birds. But we were talking before the game, and it wasn't something that I was quite comfortable with yet, though. One run could be totally a different outcome with this one swing in the bat. So definitely looking for some more runs there across the board. But Libby, like you mentioned, a huge night for him tonight. The Cardinals dialed in on Skenes, his fourth loss, I believe it was, against the Cardinals. And he's allowed 5 runs total for the Birds, but 4 losses. So you're still not looking at a massive gap there when it comes to runs scored compared to his loss win figure.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Paul Skenes coming into tonight. You mentioned it. He had already had 3 losses against St. Louis. 3 of his career 6 losses before tonight's game came against the Redbirds. Had not had a whole lot of success at Busch Stadium. He had a tremendous outing. He pitched very, very well. They left him in 1 pitch too long. They had a lefty warming up in the bullpen, and they chose to ride with their all-star pitcher. I don't mind that decision from Pittsburgh, certainly one that I'm sure many managers would stick with. But Alec Burleson in his career has been great against Paul Skenes, maybe a fact that gets overlooked through all of this. 6 for 15 against Skenes in his career, hitting .400 with 4 runs batted in. I mean, that's the guy in that moment that you want up to the plate against Paul Skenes, and boy, did Burleson deliver.
I mean, you look at the numbers, and you would not think that what Paul Skenes' performance is would result in what it has for him. I mean, 6 innings, and allowing 2 runs, though he was tagged with the loss. And like I said, 5 total runs against the Birds. I mean, there's no doubt the guy is fantastic. It just happens to not be proof on the mound against the Cards, whether it's at home or at Busch Stadium. So you're looking at kind of the differential there and what the Cardinals are really dialing in. It's positive to see them starting to put a string of wins together. It's what we're starting to see throughout the season, and definitely where we want to be as we approach, going into May and then to June, but still a couple of things that they need to work on. And Libby, just the maturity level. I've heard a couple of discussions about that. Ollie's mentioned it a couple of times. A young starter that's really just grown and worked so hard on certain things, and it's really starting to prove when he takes the ball out there and gets the go.
He feels like a starter that's going to give you a quality outing, not just by the basic definition of a quality start, 6 innings or more, 3 or less earned runs, but he's going to go out there and give you longevity, and he's going to compete. And in these starts against Paul Skenes, you start to see the Cardinals stepping up to the plate on the offensive side, but also on the pitching side. You have to put your best foot forward if you want a chance of beating this guy. And they've done that now twice in the 2025 season. Matthew Liberatore tonight, 7 innings, allowing just 1 run. Let's discuss that 1 run, because after he gave up the run in the top of the 6th inning, you started to wonder, okay, is this going to be one of those signature Paul Skenes games where he's going to take full control? 1 run of support is enough. He hasn't gotten any support in 3 career starts at Busch Stadium, 5 total runs of support, I will say, versus the Cardinals at their home ballpark. You remember the play, though. O'Neill Cruz trying to steal second, 2 outs, top of the 6th. Another replay review that looked like the Cardinals kind of had the right idea by challenging it. It didn't go their way again, but it ended up being a costly call, as, of course, O'Neill Cruz was safe at second. But the next hitter comes up, doubles into right center, brings home the leading run. The Pirates take the lead, and the Cardinals have to come up in the bottom of the 6th against Skenes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Hayes is double there in the sixth, did score O'Neal Cruz, and that did provide the Pirates with their only run of the game. But like you said, calls going in there, what looks like to be their favor and then not. They're always close. But I think if you're going to question it just the slightest bit, that you have to go for it, right? It could be a pivotal point in the game. And again, like you mentioned, that proved to be the case tonight. And then, of course, you had the Victor Scott attempt to steal at second there, and they had to go back because of the bad interference at the plate. And then the steal, the play at home yesterday in that game. So quite a few calls here that have been reviewed, but I don't know. I'm kind of still up in the air about the whole review process collectively in baseball. I think it takes away some of the natural nature of what the umpires are there to do for their job. So again, though, if you're going to have a slight question about it, I say go ahead and go for it and get it under review.
Yeah, certainly. The point they were making on the broadcast tonight was that O'Neal Cruz's finger was up before he hit the bag. The language that was used by the umpires was that the call on the field stands, which means they didn't have enough to overturn the call. So the call on the field initially was very important. Had it been the other way, it probably would have stood and the runner would have been out. So the Cardinals on the losing end of that challenge, unfortunately. But as Tim Wallace says, the umps can't hold us down. Last night didn't matter. Tonight didn't matter. Fourth straight win, their longest winning streak of the year, a chance to get back to 500 tomorrow. But this is tremendous to see the Cardinals playing the way that they've been playing, especially at home. 14 wins out of 18 this year have come at Busch Stadium. And this isn't even packed house time yet. It isn't the middle of the summer when people are off work. There were 25,000 a night, which is a good crowd for a Tuesday. But when that place gets rocking and this team starts to approach 500, I can't even begin to imagine what their record is going to be at this beautiful ballpark.
And you could tell a little bit of that feeling when Burleson had that clutch double play. I mean, the fans that were in attendance, super excited. The atmosphere is electric. And plus, you'll have the kids out of school. Everyone that really wants to go will be in attendance for the Birds as they continue to pick up the pace in the right direction. But the bullpen, once again, we can touch on that tonight. They held the line. They maintained the slim lead with relievers shutting down the Pirates. And there was one special person that had a shining moment tonight with an opportunity for a save.
Yes, that was a big moment. Gordon Graceffo, one save in his pro career coming into tonight. Single A Palm Beach Cardinals in 2021. He sits down the final three hitters in order. So they're still trying to figure out what his role is going to be in the bullpen. He was the move that was the corresponding move after they sent down Michael McGreevy. So the Cardinals are really using those arms, using the Memphis pipeline, and they're using it well. So fortunately, you made the right move. You brought Graceffo in a huge spot. Helsley gets saved for another day. They still have a chance to use him tomorrow if they can take a big lead. And that sets them up nicely for a chance to sweep the Pirates and continue their winning ways at home. But you mentioned that the fans should come on down to Busch Stadium. We, of course, will advocate for that. What else we will advocate for is, of course, our postgame show is brought to you by HotShots, who invite you to come out to their St. Charles location on Sunday, June 1st, to celebrate their 35th anniversary. 35. Fun starts at noon with a parking lot party featuring the Budweiser Clydesdales. Prizes will be given away all day. There's a dart tournament at noon, a bags tournament at 2, plus a chance to win Hot Shots tacos for a year. So that's certainly going to fill you up. Maybe go to Hot Shots and then come on down to the ballpark. Congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. Hot Shots St. Louis is home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com.
And a couple other things to mention, too. Nootbaar not so hot against the Pirates, 0 for 15 so far this season. So that's a bit of a struggle there. But Tim Wallace in the comments mentioning that the umps can't hold us down, reflecting back on some of the plays that we were just talking about. And then, of course, he also mentions Graceffo, the future closer post Helsley. So a couple of discussion points there. But then you also had Matz, who could have just finished the game tonight and saved a couple of more arms for tomorrow.
Well, I think they might have been very conservative with Matz because they may want to use him tomorrow in another role. We've seen him pitch on back-to-back days when they've committed to him being a late-inning reliever, so his arm should be fresh tomorrow if need be. He's been so good for the Cardinals and bouncing from a variety of roles, whether it's starting, long relief, setup man. He's been able to do it all. But I want to go back to Alec Burleson tonight. Alec Burleson being one of those players that started in a slump, wasn't able to find the extra base hits. In fact, we discussed numerous times on this show how few extra base hits Alec Burleson has had. Now he comes into this series, back-to-back games with a home run coming into tonight, and then the game-winning RBI double with 2 outs, might I add, against one of the best pitchers in the game. He's coming into his own and really starting to show why he is so valuable to this team.
Yeah, and going back to where he was at the start of the season, right? Like he was on fire then and kind of, like you said, went through a bit of a down point for him. And then he's starting to pick it back up again. Something that, for as far as his bat, not too concerned, because I feel like he's always going to be one of those solid players. I mean, he's not going to have a stellar outing in every single game, like every player is not going to. But for the most part, he's very consistent, I feel. And so I feel like him being a key part of this team mentally, emotionally, in the locker room and out there on the field is good for the Cardinals to have, especially when they kind of worked through those injuries a couple of weeks ago, getting some guys back and really getting into the flow of where they need to be collectively.
I'm Stefan Cray Sara Dayley. We want to remind the viewers, keep on liking and subscribing our videos and checking out our YouTube page. Participate in the YouTube chat. We want to hear your thoughts, especially after a great win like this, how the Cardinals are going to continue to move forward. And Daniel Warden says it, we lose 1-0 without Burleson's extra base hit. They didn't score anymore after that, so the proof is in the pudding. He's right. If you take away the rest of the game, the Cardinals do lose 1-0 to the Pirates tonight, but they win 2-1, which is what we're talking about here on a fantastic Tuesday night. Get a chance to sweep again for the first time since they had the Minnesota Twins in town to start the year. How important would it be for them to sweep this Pirates team and then hit the road for a 9-game road trip? It feels like this team is building confidence.
Yes, confidence is absolutely key. But one thing I also kind of feel like needs to be thought about is the Pirates aren't exactly the most impressive team in baseball. You know, they've only had 3 hits tonight. They're struggling they're 12-25 now. So they have a lot of things that they need to figure out themselves. Yes, a win is a win. But again, we're playing a team that's also struggling. So you're going to have those ups and downs throughout the season, but that's just kind of some food for thought that a 1-run lead is a celebratory reason for for the positive side of comments, but still a lot to think about right there. Because if we're going to play some teams that are absolutely dominant, it's going to be a different dynamic out there.
Well, a couple of figures for you that totally back up that point. And you hate to see a team down like the Pirates, the great fan base, great history. But if you're the Cardinals, you've got to take advantage of that. This was the 12th blown lead loss for the Pirates this season. That's one less than the league leaders, the Chicago White Sox, who have 13 losses this year after leading at one point in the game. Pirates have lost 9 of their last 10, including a season-high 6 in a row. The team has been outscored 53-29 in those 10 games. So the Pirates have really struggled. They haven't been able to push across runs. You hear that average 29 runs in their last 10 games. That's under 3 runs per game. Cardinals team that has been somewhat inconsistent in terms of the run scoring department themselves really have been fortunate to run into a team like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another positive to take away from maybe capitalizing on a weaker team, Wilson Contreras reached base twice with walks, extending his on-base streak to 9 consecutive games. So that's a positive in his direction, highlighting some of his consistent, just offensive contributions. And once again, tomorrow at 12:15, we'll see what happens with Sonny Gray as he takes the bump for the Birds against Keller.
So another thing that we maybe haven't touched on quite as much as talking about Skenes is Matthew Liberatore. Skenes, yes, has had his struggles against the Cardinals in the winning department. He's lost 4 games to the Redbirds. But Matthew Liberatore has struggled mightily in his career against the Pirates coming into tonight. 1-3, 7.13 ERA, 19 earned runs in 24 innings pitched before tonight. So he really flipped the script a little bit after his performance. 7 innings, giving up just 1 run, struck out 8. He was fantastic for the Cardinals and really was in full control.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I kind of mentioned the maturity level and things that he's had to work through. So like you just gave the stats, it wasn't like he's been commanding every time against the Pirates. And again, a weaker team to face, but he works on what he needs to work on. He goes out there, he shows his composure. He mentally gets a little tougher out there, and he really depends on his talent, which is what you got to do sometimes. So seeing that maturity and that growth for a 25-year-old with what he's gone through, I think is an absolute win for the Cardinals. And you can see how he's going to be a great solid starter for the Birds as the season continues.
And maybe an important note to make to all of the viewers and the listeners here on Sports Hub STL is that a lot of these players, maybe not all of them, are going to take time to develop. Matthew Liberatore certainly had his fair share of struggles as a starter in the big leagues, had his fair share of struggles as a reliever in the big leagues. Now he's putting it all together. So this same level of patience, as patience is a virtue, can be, one of those things that we apply to other players, not just pitchers on this squad that are struggling, whether it's Jordan Walker, whether it's Nolan Gorman. Patience is key because at some point they'll figure it out if they won't. But Liberatore at 25 years of age is starting to figure it out, and that's going to be a lot of fun. He's becoming one of the aces of this rotation, but we will touch on the actual ace of the rotation, Sonny Gray, and his start tomorrow in just a moment. But first, we have to remind you that all content here on Sports Hub STL is brought to you by DraftKings, and baseball season is officially underway. It's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Going to want to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Stefan Cray Sara Dayley on the Cards Hub postgame show, brought to you by HotShots, and all content here provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Libby is absolutely flipping the script. Good point. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sometimes even a blind squirrel will find a nut every once in a while. So I think that he made it patently obvious that he is figuring things out. But Sonny Gray, a veteran, will toe the rubber against Mitch Keller, who's been very successful against the Cardinals tomorrow in the finale before a much-needed off day for the Cardinals on Thursday. Mitch Keller, 1-3 with a 4.38 ERA. He's been great against St. Louis, 2-3, 3.38 ERA in his career, 14 appearances against the Cardinals. Sonny Gray, 3-1 with a 4.12 ERA this season. He's 6-4 with a 4.02 ERA against the Pirates in his career. What do you make of this matchup? Getaway day for the Cardinals, or I guess not really a getaway day before the getaway day, and a chance to sweep the Pirates.
Yeah, and they'll face Washington, so they'll have another matchup when they turn around on Thursday after a day of rest. But Sonny Gray, looking for another stellar performance out of him out there on the bump. An afternoon matchup. The only thing is maybe going to be some of the weather if they go through some rain delays tomorrow. I know there's supposed to be some scattered showers and things, so of course that will affect a lot of things if the game goes in and out and sitting and warming up and things of that nature, but that's not going to be an issue. Hopefully they can just take another victory, but looking forward to him improving his ERA, shutting down the Buccos, giving him another sweep, and then heading to Washington after some rest, like you said, for another matchup, or a matchup rather, against the Nationals. But they're 17-20. So again, we're looking at teams that aren't really quite at that 500 mark that we really can capitalize here and go the right direction heading into this second, third week in May.
Both of these starters coming off losses, not their best performances of the year by any stretch of the imagination. Sonny Gray got the loss in 4 1/3, 9 hits, 6 runs, 4 earned, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. That was against the Mets. Mitch Keller, 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 4 of them earned, a home run allowed with a walk and 3 strikeouts. That was against San Diego. So 2 of the best teams in the National League against both pitchers, respectively. What do you make of the notion, Sarah? You've been around this game a long time. You've been around this level of the game for a long time. That the Cardinals now know, after beating Paul Skenes twice, who's revered as one of the best pitchers in the league, that they can compete with anybody. It has to be a huge confidence builder to know that you have, over the last 2 years, routinely beat one of the game's best.
Right. And just to touch on Sonny, like you had just mentioned there, it wasn't exactly his best performance, but historically he's performed well against the Pirates. And so I think his consistency is something else to watch, because he can be a key starter, just like Libby was tonight as the season continues. He's really starting to find his way. I feel like, that outing against the Pirates back in April or whatever. He earned the win and allowed 1 run on 3 hits, but he made some progress. He's starting to find some key points that he needs to capitalize on. And as for the Cardinals and the team go, they still have plenty of season. I mean, at the very beginning of the season, we're talking about starters not going deep, wearing the bullpen arms out, a couple of injuries we had to navigate, no bats coming alive, no offensive clutch moments. And even the ones that we were putting 8, 9, 10 runs across the plate, we're still losing in extra innings. And those were just awful situations for the Cardinals to be mentally. So I do think we have absolutely the talent on the team to contend midseason. We'll see where we're at, readjust around All-Star break, take another evaluation of the team. But things are starting to fall into place. We were waiting for those puzzle pieces to find their match and to really fit into place. And I think that's starting to happen, and they're really starting to get the flow. So that's definitely positive.
Yeah, and the Cardinals are going to go on another tour of the National League East. It was not a very fun one the last time they took a tour of the East Coast, going 1-6 against the Braves and Mets. They'll go Washington, Philadelphia, Kansas City. So a chance to really pick up some ground if they can do well against those 3 teams. But again, it feels like this is a win that you'll look back on and say, hey, this was a team that was struggling, didn't have an identity. Tonight, maybe they didn't score a ton of runs, but they scored when they needed to. And this could be a huge turning point in their season.
I agree 100%. Daniel Warden mentioning some things that we did a little previously in this show. Skenes with a 2.76 ERA against the Cardinals, but 4 losses. Unbelievable bad luck. Again, the guy's a stellar pitcher. We're not like discounting his performance and his talent. That's not even the case. He just can't figure it out against the Cardinals. And to be honest, I don't know where we could tell him to change things because he's pitching amazing games. 5 runs and 4 losses is not what you would see on paper that you would say this guy definitely has 4 losses.
Well, it's the run support. 5 runs in 3 starts against the Cardinals at Busch Stadium. That's just not going to get it done. That's an average of less than 2 runs per game, and they scored less than 2 runs tonight. So the Cardinals win 2-1 and turn their sights tomorrow to Mitch Keller. There have been a lot of games, and Mike Claiborne touched on it just the other day on 365, that the Cardinals haven't been able to get that sweep. And he said, I think you're going to start to see them getting some sweeps, getting those games that maybe they haven't been able to at the beginning of the season, because it's important. It's important not to leave wins on the field and not to leave wins off the standings report. So the Cardinals can get back to 500 tomorrow, and I think your season just becomes totally reinvigorated if you can do that on Wednesday.
Right. And that kind of refers back to some of those extra inning losses by 1 run and some of the things early on. You're looking at a totally different record, maybe a couple of games above 500 at this point. But now that they're starting to figure that out, these sweeps are key, a confidence booster emotionally, just being set. And we were talking about coming back to Busch and what that means to the Cardinals to be back at home and to be able to gain that momentum. So I think they can definitely capitalize on this, take from these great starts from these pitchers, grow from the development and watch what they've been doing. Keep doing that and let Ollie keep managing and coaching the way he is. This coaching staff has got incredible talent. They're doing what they do, and they have young players they're able to mold and to make sure that they're going the right direction. So again, little down on the Birds very early in the season. We all weren't happy with the product that was on the field. It was hard, a tough pill to swallow to watch the Cardinals organization go through such a slump, but they're turning it around. And that's the faith that you have to have in this team collectively, young, resilient, able to bounce back and fix what needs to be fixed.
Well, I think you said it all right there, Miss Sara Dayley. That was fantastic. And the Cardinals were fantastic tonight. A 2-1 victory against the Pirates. They look for the sweep tomorrow. They look to get back to 500 tomorrow. Their first 4-game win streak of 2025. For everybody here at Sports Hub STL, for Matt Rocchio over in our studio, for Sara Dayley, I'm Stefan Cray. Of course, this postgame show is provided by HotShots. All content here is sponsored by DraftKings. The crown is yours. We'll see you tomorrow. Cardinals, look for the sweep against the Pirates.